Yet another reason why Bailey's understanding of Jesus as a poet, peasant, is important for us today is that it suggests that we need to reformat, quite literally, reformat the way that we present Jesus' parables. In the Old Testament, we have the Psalms, which are presented as poetry. We have the teachings of the prophets, which for the most part are presented as poetry. We read them, and we recognize as we read them in English that we're reading poetry that it would have been written in Hebrew. So we know we're not getting everything that from that poetry that we would be able to derive if we were reading it in Hebrew. But at least we're recognizing that we're reading poetry, and we're seeing parallels and connections in the poetry that we wouldn't see if we were reading prose. And yet the way that Jesus' parables are presented is that they are prose stories and not poetry. So one of the things that Bailey suggested was that we need to literally reformat the way that the parables are presented in our New Testaments. They need to be presented in a poetic way, with distinct lines, and maybe lines that are indented in such a way as to show the Hebraic ABCD CBA structure of many of Jesus' parables. And why is that significant? Is it going to radically change the way that we interpret the parables? Well, in some ways it will clarify what Jesus is saying, and it may change our views in some respects. But probably that's not the major reason we should consider reformatting this poetry. The reason we should do that is because we are not appreciating the literary quality and really the literary genius of Jesus. We're seeing him as a storyteller and not a poetic storyteller. We're still getting the basic message that Jesus has to present, but we've impoverished it. We've diminished our understanding of Jesus because we're not seeing the poetic structure in which he was thinking and speaking. If you were to read William Shakespeare's plays, and you're a Frenchman, you could read them in translation in French, and you might even read them as prose rather than as poetry, and you would understand the basic points that Shakespeare was making. But you would miss the magic of the language. You would miss the literary genius that is William Shakespeare, and the reason we continue to love and revere Shakespeare 4 centuries after he was written. We could say the same thing about Jesus. We should reformat these parables, not primarily because we're going to get new information from it, but because we've impoverished our understanding of Jesus, who created these beautiful literary gems for us in his parables that we're simply missing out on.